Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War 3 Cactalleros event, in which a bunch of cactuses were added to the game. 2 came in today, and the third one will be coming during Bounty Hunter this Friday. So, as far as the first one of all the cactus, we have the Senita. You can get this for glory this week. It is 400 glory each. It is an epic troop. With that being said, it does come out to 200 glory each per arcane tradestone, so that's the cheapest that it's ever going to be. This is a very decent tradestone. You can use this earlier on in the game to get the second trait of Marilith, and later on in the game, you likely want to focus it on something like getting a fully traded Yagwe. Fully traded Yagwe is particularly useful given that this Friday is Bounty Hunter, and with that being said, Yagwe is the absolute best thing to use for Bounty Hunter, using it with a Feral Hound, and that combination alone can take out a good majority of the battles, if not all the battles, depending on what your stats are. But yeah, definitely a really nice arcane tradestone to stock up on this week, and it'll synergize with what the event actually is, so it works out perfectly. As far as Senita itself, it is very weak. It is the exact same mana colors and mana cost as a Marilith. Marilith is another epic troop, same rarity as well, that ends up doing 6 true damage to all enemies and then generates a bunch of mana by destroying a bunch of gems. It is way superior to that of the Senita, unfortunately, so Senita is already dead content. As far as what the Senita does, though, it deals true damage to the last enemy and then enrages them. Enrage being actually a positive stats effect for the enemy, just makes it so they do 1.5 times skull damage and ignore traits on their next skull hit. Of course, since it's all the way in the back, it is very unlikely that they would actually utilize this, but still, nonetheless, you are giving it something positive. As far as its damage, it is slightly above average, but it is limited at only 8 in the back, and of course it's still giving that slight positive effect. As far as all 3 of these cactus people, it does have immune to devour like all of them do. It has a deal damage to all of them whenever it takes skull. In this case it's 1, on the legend it has 3, and it also has a stealthy here, which will just allow it to try to dodge single target abilities. So that's that. Nothing really too special. Definitely worth getting though for the arcane tradestones. Only 200 each, so cheapest they'll ever be. So event objectives. We have ourselves this week 10% to all drifting sand, which isn't too relevant, but what is 10% to all elementals. Quite a few good elementals out there. As far as the extra resource, it is gold this week and is only specifically an explorer, so you'd likely just want to plop that into any kind of triple explorer team and just keep spamming that out, and you'd end up earning quite a bit of extra gold that way, pretty much the same rate as PvP whenever that 400 gold is available. Also, you can go and kill yellow troops either in PvP and explorer to get quite a few event keys, and event keys are okay to use this week. And speaking of event keys, let's actually go use them ourselves. There is a second cactus in here. This is a new legend that has been added to the game. Let's just go and find him real quick, hopefully on the first 50, of course not. There are basically 2, technically 3, I guess, main drops that you can be getting from this. It is the Great Maul, which is the 100% Devour chance troop. It can only cast once, and it costs 24 mana cost, but it is pretty effective. There is also the new Cactus, is what we're trying to find right now. And there is also the Mythic troop, which would be very unlikely to find, but there is a Brown Guild War related Mythic troop of Scorpia, which ends up hitting basically double kill if the last 2 slots are poisoned. So this was a Great Maul I was talking about. One of the best Devour options in the game. Devours an enemy, creates 8 yellow and 8 brown, and then it can only be cast once, even if you have multiple on the team. So you can't just use it, spam on your team, and devour out the entire team. That doesn't quite work out that way, unfortunately, but a really good troop to just kind of put on your team, particularly as a newer player to actually pick this up if you could. Doesn't need any traits at all to function, so don't even need to worry about that. Basically just feed it mana quickly with like an apothecary or something, and then boom, just throw down a devour. Could help a lot in pet battles and stuff like that, where devours can be very, very important in order to get enough stats to basically survive. But anyways, can we get what we're looking for? Come on, new legend. Nope. Nope, we're gonna get the mythic before we find it. So whoever placed their bets on 100 event keys, you're correct. I was actually betting on 50, but no, it took us 100 event keys to find the mythic. It takes way longer than that. Oh, and there we go. Well, I only needed 1. Apparently it's going to give us 2 Great Mauls, 1 mythic, and 3 of these. Do keep in mind the mythic is pretty rare, though. But we'll get this guy. This was the main thing we were looking for. He is also extremely weak and dead content, but nonetheless, he is a new troop and still worth collecting just for collection purposes, for kingdom upgrades and such. But he deals damage to the 2 weakest enemies and then gain 10 life and 10 attack. This would be somewhat okay earlier on in the game, since this 10 life and attack gain is static, so even if you just got this as a lower level player, you would still be gaining that same amount of stats. Though of course this late in the game, when the stats are basically always above 50, 60, sometimes even like over 70 or 80, that 10 to both those two stats isn't really going to make too big of an impact. As far as his traits, he has immune to devour, as all of them have. It has 25% skull reflect, and it also has a 3 damage to all enemies whenever it takes a skull, though generally in most of the teams you'd be utilizing in wouldn't really be taking too many skulls, as there isn't much that you can skull spam with it specifically, other than maybe the Wild Queen, that one Wild Folk Troop. But anyways, that is the new legend that came in. As far as the Soulforge, there really isn't too much to go over, mainly because all of the specific craftable ones aren't really that desirable to go for out of your way. At most, maybe like a Queen Aurora, though I wouldn't really go for it as one of your primary ones. That's like your 5th, 6th, 7th pick as far as mythics are concerned. But one noteworthy thing about that is it does have a really good mana generation final trait, which is basically like a 6 times link. It's 1 link to every single color, so you get a lot of extra mana off of that. And is actually the best mana generator of any mythic, except maybe Infernus, depending on how you look at it. But one thing I did want to go show in here is if you have been struggling with the goblin battles, just either in PvP or in the pet battle specifically, there is a Gob Chomper. Gob Chomper is basically the hard counter to goblins. It's pretty noteworthy compared to all the other kind of hard counter giants, mainly because it has the Empower trait, and Empowered allows you to, of course, start off with full mana, and he could just have a 50% chance to devour each one of the goblins each time. And even if you don't have that, basically you get his mana up and just keep spamming it out on, let's say, like the pet battles, for example. Let's say he's fully traded and you only have 1 or 2. You just put them up in the front of your team, you throw them down, hope they devour. If they don't devour, you instantly restart the battle, and you just keep repeating that until he eventually gets to devour. And once he finally gets to devour, you can easily just win the battle. And yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. So you may want to consider doing that. Other than that, we have quite a few events this week. We have, well, it's actually being blocked by our Peace Pigeon currently, but there's going to be a new pet coming in this Wednesday, which is going to be a monster bonus, so we'll be able to get additional bonuses towards monster. After that, on Thursday, we will be having the class event for the assassin, which is why you see me using assassin, trying to get that leveled before the class, hopefully, so we can get this to level 100. So I can show off all of its traits. But yes, Assassin class, it is one of the better classes, has pretty well-rounded stuff. Also the best skull spammer of any hero class. Definitely one to highly consider leveling to a decent degree. And on top of that, as I already mentioned, we have Bounty Hunter this Friday, which is a really good way of obtaining orbs. Though as a newer player, I'd pretty much just ignore the game mode, other than maybe just your free battles, as it wouldn't really be too much worth your time unless you're actually spending a decent amount of gems to try to get some of the better rewards that are within them. But that's all of the things that are going to be coming in. Let's go now and level up, trade up our troop that we just got, and let's see if we can use them. And then use double Scorpius. No, just kidding. No, we probably will do that later, though. Wasn't actually expecting getting him, but it happened. Let's just go to upgradable. Would probably be easier to find him that way. Upgradable. Go click on that. Get him fully traded. And then we just need to go level him. Also, what I've been doing lately is just going 1 before the max level, and then simply using the orb on it. Oh wait, never mind. That wouldn't matter for this. Yeah, for the final level we'll do that. But I like using that orb to save like 1,000 souls. It makes like such a little difference when we do go for that, the little smaller ones. But there's nothing else to really use them for, and they're definitely not worth making into major orbs. So might as well use them to save a little bit of souls here and there. But anyways, that's him upgraded. Let's go get him into the team I wanted to do him with. So where do we have it? It is this one right here. I wanted to use him in a wild folk team. He actually does count as a wild folk. Where on earth did he just go? He is Saguaro. Saguaro. Something like that. Let me get rid of all those. And let's just go type that in. And Sag actually brings him up immediately. We'll go replace that in. And basically you're going to be using him in first slot. If you're ever even going to bother using him, you're probably going to be using it in first slot. So, do we fight him against the meta? No. Do we fight him against the wolf? Sure. Oh, it has a Scion though. The dreaded Scion. Well, let's go switch into this and go get ourselves a Saguaro. So we'll go into this. So, Saguaro, Mountain Crusher, or Dawnbringer if you really wanted to. King Silenus, and the Wild Queen. If you don't have Wild Queen, you can go the Keeper Souls would be okay. This, if you were using the Bard hero class, would actually be 4 times 4 times Wild Folk, so your entire team would be Wild Folk. That is decently relevant, as you would start with half mana on all of your troops due to using King Salinas. King Salinas in this particular team that I am using is pretty key to actually making everything work. Though you could easily go, and if you really, really wanted to use him as an early game ranger alternative, you can go and just spam his mana constantly with like a Green Seer or any other option. But let's go and see if we can get Mountain Crusher up. That's generally what we're going to be wanting to do for ever using a Mountain Crusher team. Going to want to get all of our mana up for that, just to have the board clear capability. And that kind of threw me off for a moment. This gold thing there, that looks so weird when he ends up doing that. It's kind of funny though. But we'll go and basically with the King Salinas set up everything that we need here. So we're going to let him have the skull, because if we take a 0, if I'm not mistaken, he should not trigger his on-skull effect. Apparently he still likes to. So I don't know why it works with some and not with others, but apparently it works with his. But we'll go, because sometimes when a troop is... really, you would Deathmark kill it. You're going to do that. Normally, what happens if you end up doing it with some traits, when it doesn't end up triggering its damage, it doesn't end up triggering the actual ability itself. But he kills us with a random Deathmark. Guess we're going to have to get some revenge. We actually have the Wild Queen in here to try to utilize the fact that it does do those skulls-related things. So basically, we'll go do this, get rid of its attack, kill it out with that, and ideally we'll get skulls off of that. If you ever wonder why I never really use Wild Queen, that is pretty much why. There are some instances where she's okay, but the fact that her ability isn't pure green or pure skull kind of makes it a little bit weird in that it doesn't miss quite often, or at least it feels like it does, compared to something like Yerol. Alright, we'll go take a yellow over, just trying to get those last little 2 pokes of damage. That Entangle is not something we can easily get off at the moment. So we'll go and hopefully get it off right there. Perfect. And then just skull into skull. And we trigger our Assassin. Obviously not the exact hero class to be using with this team. Bard would be much better, but at least Assassin coming in with its 10% instant kill thing. So you're going to give me the meta again. Can we get something that is different? Oh, we got a different version of the meta. Oh, it's using Divinia Yagwe combo too. Yagwe, of course, being the best possible thing you could really put your red-green trait stones into from stocking up on the thing. Well, let's go try this one last time to kind of show it, since it did die a little bit quick to the death mark there. But let's go, and a lot of blue. We don't actually use blue on this team, though. Don't give us what we don't need. Okay, we still need to go get our quick mana start. Doesn't look like we have it available, so we're just going to try taking pretty much any mana that we can get. Brown would be the most ideal, but anything to fill us up would be great. We'll go for all that. We do have our double poke, though it will hit on weakest, so we want to try determining what we're going to want to hit first. Lower those down, and then whatever we target at, we'll bring it into range for us to kill. So we'll go take that, get our full mana to everything. Looks like he's about to do a nice HP heal, which, well, nice for him, not nice for us. We'll go and throw it right over here, as I do want that to be one of our biggest threats. And since this automatically hits the lowest, we will be able to utilize that to try to target it. So on this board, it looks like we won't really be able to get much if we cast this ability, so we are going to kind of just ignore it for now. We're going to go for this, hit it with those ridiculously weak 33s, and see what else we can do from there. So we'll go for this. Try taking the attack off the second, hoping that we kill the first. Doesn't even look like we touched the first. Let's go explode out the board. We do use a lot of things that have green, so that we'll at least mana generate for it, if nothing else. And we'll keep, I guess, stacking up its stacks stacking up its stats. As you can see, it's getting relatively high, and we can keep giving it attack off of that, as well as just off its own ability. We just need to actually be able to hit these skulls, and we'll be good to go from there. I'm gonna go and poke on this again, just because I do want to make sure we secure that kill before he gets a bunch of positive stat effects of any kind that he'll be able to utilize. We'll go take this green down just so we get a little bit more mana. Hit him with everything with those little darting hits. That actually does look pretty cool, I do have to say. And too bad it doesn't trigger before the his thing doesn't trigger before the skull, unfortunately, as you saw there. End up just hitting on his barrier, the skull hit. So we'll go, and this still is not enough damage to actually kill it. Wow, this does such a little damage. That has 20% too. That is a bit lower than I was even expecting for that. Like, I knew it was bad, didn't realize it was that bad. As you can see, it still does stack up quite a bit of stats, and from an early game perspective, that can definitely start to be quite a bit more. This late in the game, not really making too big a difference. That's like a 1/8 increase to its stats, if even that. how late in the game it is. Also, one last thing, since this is a week where it works in both, or never mind, sorry, when you can go and get the extra 400 gold off the what's his name? Forget his name right now. My bad. It is the Senita. So if you go to Explore this week, one last thing I forgot to mention, if you go to Whitehelm, since it has overlap between Explore and the other event where you have to go kill a bunch of yellows, Whitehelm has the most amount of yellows of any kingdom. So the easiest way to go and get both of them done this week, if you want to go gain a bunch of gold as well as getting the objective done, is just killing a bunch of yellow. If you don't want to keep repicking the casual PvP of PvP, you can just go with any kind of team like this, just a standard Sunbird Rowan or Sunbird Senita with the firebomb, and then if you didn't use Senita already, you would just throw it in, or your hero using literally anything. I'm just throwing a Dawnbringer for now, just because it works, but you can use a smaller yellow weapon, or really just anything there, and it'll still do the trick. Main thing is just to have that fire bomb into a quick Sunbird, and so you can do that. And if that wasn't enough, you can kill it with the Senita, or you could even do that beforehand. As you can see, we get the extra 400 gold, and we'll pretty much be getting at least one low event gem every single time, due to the fact that Whitehelm has the most amount of yellows in it. But anyways, guys, that will wrap it up for this event video. If you still have any other questions about anything or anything else you want me to go over, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Best of luck if you're going to be doing any key openings this week, and I will see you all later. Goodbye, everyone!